All right, everybody, it's Wednesday night. That means it's another time for the next episode of the Red Delta Project podcast and Q&A live stream here on the Red Delta Project YouTube channel. Yes, this is the time of the week where we talk about a serious topic that's affecting your results, helping you maximize your potential with minimalist approaches to diet and exercise, and answering your questions in the second half of today's video. As always, a reminder though, please check out my books at the RDP library down below in the description. After all, that is how I support the channel, how I support Red Delta Project, and I don't have to sling supplements that don't do any good for you and stuff. I'd rather write books for you that are a hell of a lot more effective. So today's topic, we're talking about handling criticism and winning big. And the reason why this is a continuation of what we've been talking about is last week I talked about how basically your success largely boils down to your beliefs in your ability to get the results you want, your beliefs in how you see food and exercise, your beliefs in yourself. So essentially, if you have the right alignment of beliefs, your results, or at least a degree of your results, is practically guaranteed. But if you have detrimental beliefs that go against the grain of what you're trying to achieve, you have almost no chance whatsoever, regardless of any other variables. And when it comes to formulating those beliefs, one of the biggest reasons we have toxic beliefs is because of criticism. Criticism is so incredibly powerful at making you believe that you can't get what you want, that it is much more potent than anything positive. If you've ever been with someone who has a negative outlook on themselves, like, oh, I can't do anything right, and I'm such a loser, and I don't look good, and everything. And despite you and all of your friends there at dinner, you're like, you're good, you're great, you're smart, you're talented, you're funny. No, I'm not, right? Any amount of praise does almost nothing to change their beliefs. That's because an ounce of negativity is so much heavier in the heart or the soul than any amount of positivity. So we're talking today of how do we handle this as a champ. Now, there's different types of criticism, and all of them are very important. First off, there's criticism from others. There's criticism of yourself. And then there's also criticism coming from you. Because while we often think that the criticism coming towards us is detrimental, which it is, the criticism coming out of your own mouth is far more destructive, way more destructive than anything else, which I'll get into in a minute. And one of the reasons why I'm bringing this topic up is because the past week, I've finally been starting to put out some videos on my new toy, of course, Dragon Door's ISO chain. And I'm getting a ton of criticism for it. I'm getting criticism for doing videos on the ISO chain. The ISO chain itself is getting criticism. Dragon Door is getting criticism. We're getting roasted over the coals like crazy. And so I figured that would be a good example on how this all kind of works in this format. So we'll talk about criticism from others, all right? Why is that so detrimental? Well, as I discussed, a lot of negative criticism can stay with us for years on end. Like your beliefs right now as an adult that are formulating your choices and therefore your results could be from criticism that you received when you were a little kid. Maybe your parents or some friends or whatever, they did a lot of criticism of you, and you took that to heart, and you're still running off of programming you got before you were 10 years old. And it's still very much in charge of your fate. And now I know a lot of times on the internet, there's these memes and these ideas on social media like, it doesn't matter what they think. Screw what they think. It doesn't matter what other people think, which I think is absolutely crazy. How are you supposed to not care what other people think? That's like sociopathic kind of talk. And especially if you're trying to create anything in the world, like here in business, a lot of this don't worry about what other people think comes from people who are also saying, put out YouTube videos, put out podcasts, try to build a business, create products, people. You can't possibly do that without caring what people think. If you don't care what people think, you wouldn't create anything for other people, right? So we have to be more open to this idea that yes, people are going to criticize you. Yes, you're going to get criticism. As I've talked about in a previous episode, this is perfectly fine. It's perfectly healthy. The way I see it is it's like getting in the ring in martial arts. Like you're going to get your head kicked in. You're going to get your shots and it's going to hurt. That's just part of the glory, part of the game, as you will. But the thing to really understand is that criticism isn't necessarily coming from the place we think it is. Okay, put a pin in that, because now we're going to explore a little bit on the self-criticism. Because self-criticism, same exact thing, only it's coming from a different source, where you're criticizing yourself, all that negative self-talk. And believe me, I am the king of negative self-criticism by 1.5 miles. In fact, it's kind of the story I've long heard from friends and family for years. They're like, Matt, like, for heaven's sake, man, stop beating yourself up so much. I mean, that was one of the reasons why when I first started RDP and I'd get criticized, it didn't faze me that much, because when people would criticize me, I'd be like, dude, you've got nothing on the voices in the back of my head telling me how ugly and worthless and piece of shit that I am, right? You saying this video sucks, that's nothing. I think this video is an absolute piece of crap and I shouldn't even be looking at a camera and I shouldn't even be alive, right? This is the negative stuff going through my head all the time. So that's one of the reasons why external self-criticism never really fazed me, because it was nothing compared to what I was telling myself. So both of these types of criticism are coming in. One is coming in from external sources, one is in, and then it's just kind of cycling through your system. And it's creating all of these negative beliefs about yourself and what you can do and everything. And again, why this is so detrimental is because your subconscious is in charge of your behaviors. Your subconscious is driving the bus. If you keep the negativity rolling through your habits, you're very much stuck. You're not going to get very far. So how do we deal with this? Well, the worst thing we can do is try to ignore it. Because as I said earlier, like the whole, it doesn't matter what they think, that doesn't work very well. Because if we could, we would have already. And being closed off from the opinions of others or yourself, that's not going to help very much. It's not going to do you any good, because you need to be communicating with people. That's why I do these live streams. I want to talk to you. I want to hear your opinions. I want to have communication with you. Same thing with yourself. In order to understand what you really need in order to get in shape and lose weight and get the results you want, you've got to be talking to yourself. One of the biggest reasons why people fail to get the results they want is they don't have any internal communication with themselves. They're numbing themselves a lot. They're ignoring themselves. Now it's so incredibly bad. We have social media and we have constant distractions that apparently now social scientists are finding that one of the most uncomfortable thing that a lot of people find they can do is be alone with themselves in a quiet room. It's like they can't possibly do it, or look at themselves in a mirror for more than like 30 seconds or whatever the number is. That being able to sit with yourself and really think about yourself and kind of converse and be introspective is very uncomfortable with people. So now we've gotten this idea where we're ignoring our own selves. Like, just get me distracted by anything else going on in the world. I don't want to pay attention to what's going on. So we're numb to food. We're numb to exercise. We're not really paying attention to ourselves. Therefore, we have no chance in understanding ourselves and knowing what we really need. So this is why it's so incredibly toxic. Criticism is closing us down. It's shutting us off. It's keeping us in a very small, tight little box. And that's one of the biggest reasons why I created RDP, is to help people break free of their boxes, of the limitations that are preventing you from getting the results you want and living the life that you want. And one of the biggest reasons for that, again, is also dogma. Dogma is incredibly toxic, because what it does is it puts you in a little box. It keeps you in a little tiny box. This is who I am. This is all I can do. This is the way the world is. This is what I do. And I'm in this tiny little itty bitty box, and I never get out of this little box. It is truly a self-imposed prison. In fact, a lot of times you hear stories of people who are actually prisoners of war, convicts, and people who are under house arrest, or they're self-imposed like agoraphobia, and they don't leave the house or anything. And they'll say, I feel free, because they're not living in their own personal little boxes. Same thing happens to fitness, right? We get in these little tiny boxes saying, this is how you have to do things exactly this way, tiny little itty bitty box. And that's one of the reasons why criticism of others is one of the most toxic things that we can have, because every time we criticize others, we keep ourselves in our little tiny box. It's like, I criticize CrossFitters, don't be a CrossFitter. I criticize bodybuilders, don't be a bodybuilder. I criticize kettlebells and calisthenics, don't do those things either. Every time you're criticizing something, you're narrowing your scope of where you can go. Like here in America, we've got a lot of people who criticize other countries. You're never going to travel. Criticize other states. You're going to stay in your state. Criticize other people. You're going to stay in your own home. You're closing yourself off to possibilities the more you criticize others. And that's why it's so incredibly detrimental. Now, some of you may be saying, well, so what am I supposed to just agree with everybody? Like agree, because if I criticize something, doesn't that mean that I'm on that side? And that's one of the biggest misconceptions about criticism, about yourself, criticism coming from others, is criticism does not come from disagreement. You can disagree with me all you like, but not criticize. I disagree with a whole bunch of stuff, but I don't criticize it. Criticism does not come from disagreement. Criticism comes from lack of understanding. So once again, that comes from us, right? We criticize ourselves because we don't personally understand ourselves. We don't understand what it is that makes us tick, what we really want, what we really desire in life, what we really like or don't like, who we are as person, the self-actualization. The highest level on Maslow's hierarchy of needs is self-actualization, understanding who we are, what we're truly capable of, right? Now, for me personally, in the past couple of years, I've been going through a very big lifestyle change where I've been living on my own. I've never done this before. I'm 42 right now, and I've always lived under someone else's roof with roommates or friends or something like that. So I've never done that. And in the past couple of years, living on my own, I've gotten a lot more of a deeper understanding of myself and who I am as a person and what I value and all this sort of thing. And as a result, those roaring self-critical voices, they're like tiny, itty bitty little things. I haven't done much in the self-criticism world in a long time. And the whole reason isn't because I'm staring at the mirror trying to say I'm smart enough, I'm good enough, and gosh darn it, people like me. It's because I'm understanding myself. I'm understanding myself better, warts and all. And as a result, I'm not criticizing myself because I understand myself. So when people are criticizing you, it's not a negative thing that they think you're ugly or bad or anything like that. They don't understand you. They don't understand what you're doing. If your boss or someone is really critical and you're saying that's a stupid idea, that's a stupid thing, and sort of very negative, no, it's nothing about you. It's on them. They don't understand, which is why whenever I get criticism, I take that as a sign of I needed to explain this idea a little bit better. If I get a lot of criticism about something, I didn't do a good enough job explaining what I meant in that video. That's what I take away from it, because a lot of you, you'll say, I don't agree with you, but I understand you. I understand where you're going with this. I'm like, yeah, that's okay. That's perfectly fine. You don't have to agree with me. You don't have to agree with all these sorts of things, but that's perfectly okay. Because when you disagree with something, you still leave it as a possibility. You still have the option to explore it in another time if you deem so, if your situation changes. Right? You don't immediately wall it off and say, that's stupid, I'll never do that. All right. There was a time when I thought mountain biking was stupid, backcountry skiing was idiotic, and sushi was the most disgusting thing in the world. But now I backcountry ski all winter long, and I love sushi. It's one of my favorite foods. And I just signed up for a 50-mile mountain bike race in Vail this weekend. Why? Not because I thought it was bad or anything, because something happened from experience and I understood it more. And I was like, hey, this is great. I love this stuff. This is fantastic. I understood it. I loved it. But there's also things that I've come to understand. And I was like, yeah, no, I don't agree with it. No, I'm just going to put it over there. But I don't waste time and energy on it, right? I don't waste a lot of energy on criticizing it on the internet or anything like that, like CrossFit. I had a short stint as a CrossFitter. And at first, I really tried to make a go of it. I really wanted to like it, but it just wasn't my bag. It wasn't the direction I wanted to go in. And there was a period where I was very critical of it, very criticism of it. And I was very critical of it one time at a party, and a friend of mine kind of put me in a place and they're like, why are you wasting all of this energy on this? Like, you're not doing yourself any good, man. Just drop it. Like, what do you want to do? Okay, you don't want to do CrossFit, whatever. So what do you want to do instead? Focus on that. Put me in my place, right? Like, you're right. I'm wasting energy. I'm wasting attention. And then I shifted towards more important things that now became more of the Red Delta Project. So understand that criticism from others comes from a lack of understanding. Criticism from yourself, lack of understanding. Seek to understand or just ignore it. Don't care about it kind of thing. And that is where that, it doesn't really matter. Don't care about it too much as long as you put your attention towards other things. And then lastly is watch your own tongue. If you're critical about something, understand that's coming from a place of a lack of understanding. Now, in my experience, like with everybody criticizing the iso chain and dragon door and stuff, of course they're criticizing it. How could they possibly understand it? Because it's not out yet. They can't understand it because, as I always say, lack of experience, it's not an opinion, it's a guess, right? So they can't understand it. How could they possibly understand it? I was critical of it until I used it, and then the little dots connected. I was like, oh, now I get it. Man, this thing is awesome. But I couldn't reach that level of understanding until, of course, I used it. So understand there's a difference between more of a valid opinion based on experience versus a less valid opinion that's more based on guesswork. Where's the understanding? Is there lack of understanding? Well, that's where the criticism's coming from. So criticism from others, criticism of yourself, criticism from your own perspective. Tone that stuff down, because in either way, it keeps you in your little box. It limits your potential, it limits your growth, and it limits your freedom. And most importantly, it just makes you miserable. No one's ever happy when they're criticizing. So understand where it's coming from. Know it's from a lack of understanding. Seek to understand, stay curious, and grow forth into good things. All right, let's get into some of these questions here. Let's see what questions we got. Let's Clark. About to move gym, then start a new program. Very good, outstanding. This is all good. See, with COVID going on, there's a lot of new things people are developing. And this is, again, why we want to kind of tone down that criticism of things, because you never know when something's going to be that next great thing for you. Case in point, again, I used to think mountain biking was stupid. I used to think backcountry skiing was ridiculous. But now I'm almost at the point of, if you really think something's dumb, you should give it a try, because it's probably going to be the next greatest thing for you. All right. Sorry, this is the one I meant to click on here. This is why we have good friends that snap us out of it. Amen. We don't worry about the haters because they got their own inner problems. We just hang around like-minded, kind, nice people. Absolutely. And the thing is, the people who are closest to you understand you better. Not always. You'll get some of the worst criticism from those who are closest to you, especially if you're trying something new that's a little left of center. But that's why someone one time said something like, the way they base opinions of others is, are you in my phone? Like someone from a crowd shouts, you're an idiot. And you're like, are you in my phone? No? Okay, so why would I care? Like, you're not close enough to me. I don't have your contact information, therefore you're not close. Therefore, why should I care as much about you? But, if I'm doing something bad or just kind of stupid, and I've had friends call me out. I had one time when I was kind of going on a bad path, and a friend of mine sat me down. He's like, Matt, what are you doing, man? Like, this isn't you. Come on, snap out of it. And I was like, oh, if this guy's really saying, I guess I got to take that to heart, because they understand us more. It's all from understanding. Wolfy Dragon. What did I miss out on here? Hey, a lot, but don't worry. Remember, the audio for this is always available immediately after this on podcast directories, and it is also on the RDP YouTube channel on the channel page under live streams. All right, hit me up with questions here, folks. Is push-pull legs the best program? Absolutely. Everything else is a complete waste of time and complete trash. I'm guessing. No, it's wonderful. The reason why push-pull squat or leg works so well is because it's such a comprehensive approach to the basic fundamentals of human movement. Almost everything gets hit with those, whether it's weightlifting or tools or isometrics, bands, Bowflex, whatever it is. You're covering so much ground with that. And you can mix and match however you like. You can have a push day, pull day, and a leg day. You can break it up into push, pull, and then leg push or pull, because of course there's leg push and pull. Things are extension like deadlifts, bridges, kettlebell swings. Those are leg pull versus push, although all squats are pulling to some degree. And you can put those in different days. Really doesn't matter. Just kind of however you like to get your work in throughout the week is perfectly fine. But yeah, you cannot go wrong with push-pull legs. It's one of those things that's just so tried and true that it covers so many great things, it's hard to miss out on anything. Russo, how to avoid that pre-training feeling? Meh, I don't want to train today. Oh boy, you're preaching to the choir, man. Everybody gets this. Yeah, everybody, especially if you're usually working out later in the day. Energy level is lower, right? You're kind of just settling in from a hard day of work or whatever. Pre-training, meh. So here's the rule that I always give my clients, because of course, as a personal trainer in the gym, we have like a 24-hour cancellation policy that's kind of standard in our industry. And so what I always tell clients, I was like, if you don't want to show up and work out and stuff, here's what I'll do for you. Don't call in sick. Don't be like, I'm quitting, because then you're going to miss out on the session. You're going to still get charged because it's within 24 hours. Instead, I tell them, show up and we'll just give it a try for 10 minutes, 5 minutes, one set. I don't care, right? Just start moving. Now, 9 times out of 10, once you start, you're going to be good. The momentum kicks in, boom, and you're off to the races. But sometimes it's not in the cards. Sometimes it's just not going to happen. So that's why I tell people, show up, give it a shot. And after that, you're like, yeah, I still want to go home. I said, okay, fine. And you don't lose the session. You don't get charged. So that way they feel like they've got something to lose by not giving it a try. And they got nothing to lose if they give it a try, because they'll either not get charged or they'll get their session that they want. So that's why I always tell people, just start with something nice and easy. That's one of the things I like about isometrics, is putting that in the start of the workout. You can just start at whatever level you're at, gets those juices flowing real quick. And before too long, I find it's like, holy smokes, I am off and ready to crank out these pull-ups. So just start at whatever level you can. Arm circles, smaller is better. Hey, Adrian Harvey's here. Girya Girl Fitness. Sometimes criticism from others can come from their own lack of imagination. Oh, very good point. As in, they can't imagine that something was that awesome or cool. That is true. That is true. It goes with the understanding too. You know, ignorance is the default condition of the human mind. There's 2 defaults in life. This is one of the new lessons that I'm learning these days. Ignorance and failure. Those are going to make up most of your life. And I know that sounds negative, but hear me out on this. Ignorance is what's going to be your most common condition. I mean, I don't know how this iPhone works. You know, I don't know how to restore a 52 Plymouth. I don't know how to bake the best cupcakes. I don't know where the moon is. Like, there's a billion, trillion, gazillion things I don't know right now, right? There's more ignorance, more things I'm ignorant about than what I know. So we have to accept that as much as we learn, there's always going to be far more that we don't know. And that's a liberating thought, because when we get stuck in that little box that prisons you, that holds you back, it's because you think all there is in life is in that box. All there is to know is in that box. This is one of the reasons why dogmas are so incredibly destructive, is your scope is so narrow that you're unaware of your own ignorance, that you don't know what else is out there, and what else is out there is going to blow your mind. It's going to turn your life around. It's out there. It's a given. There's something out there that you're going to learn someday, and it's going to make your head spin, and you're going to wish you knew it years ago. And that's just a fact of life. So that's one of the reasons that keeps me learning, is like, somewhere out there, there's something I'm going to learn, and it's going to be unbelievably awesome. So that's why we need imagination. That's why we have to understand that we don't understand most of the time. So excellent point, Adrian. Thank you so much. Another one, John, how will micro workouts change grind style? The sessions are pretty short as is. Absolutely. Thank you and love your content. Yeah, grind style and micro workouts depends on how you do it. Like, one of the most common ways to approach grind style is to train one tension chain at a time. Like, if you have your push chain, you have your 4 phases of tension control, stability, then you got your 3, 4, 5, whatever you want sets, and then a finisher. That's not going to take a lot of time. It's like 10 minutes or so, maybe 15. So it's a pretty short workout. So naturally, if you put push, pull, and legs into one workout, that's going to be a fairly standard length workout, maybe about 45 minutes or so. So grind style and micro workouts can work. You're just doing things in smaller ways. Grind style can also be done micro workout where you just practice one phase. So just do a tension phase. And this is kind of going along with the idea earlier that I was mentioning of how do I get started? It's like, just practice the isometric, just practice the tension phase. And after that, you're like, oh, no, it's not happening today. Okay, you're done. Do it tomorrow. You know, put it off. I'm a big fan of putting off workouts. Very big fan of that. I have it all the time. People will tell me all the time, they're like, I just am not worth it. They're like, all right, we'll put it off till tomorrow. And then they do it tomorrow and they're like, that was an awesome workout. I'm glad I got a good night's sleep and I got good food and now I'm so much more ready and my workout was way better. Big fan of putting it off if it's going to be better tomorrow. But you don't know Remember, ignorance is the most common condition of the human mind. So we have to at least try to find out. Then we'll know, and then we'll make a better decision. But grind style and micro workouts will work beautifully together, perfectly, seamlessly connected with one another. All right. BBB was a great night and a good day to go home is a great way of making. Yeah, absolutely. It's I clicked on the wrong one. Here we go. Michael, why do you think you get the same questions over and over regarding results in fitness? Is it because most people are goal result oriented and less process oriented? Excellent question. No, it's just largely the fact that, the same questions are always going to be out in the ether of fitness. It's always going to be out there. I could drop leaflets from the Goodyear blimp over cities about the grind style method or the 3P strategy. And there'll still be someone who flies in from Europe and they're like, so how would I go about a good calisthenics workout? Remember, ignorance is the default setting for the human mind. As much as we know, there's always going to be a lot more that we don't know. And no matter how much something may be common knowledge, like everybody knows that, there's always going to be far more people who don't know it, regardless of how much we think we know it. Like everybody knows, like first President George Washington. Well, you go over to China, billions of people over there have no idea who George Washington is. I'm assuming, again, ignorance, default setting. For all I know, they could study American history in grade 1. They're like, of course we know who George Washington is, but that's my ignorance talking and making assumptions. So we're always butting against a low level of understanding. And fitness is a very new science. Fitness is extremely new when you compare it to like chemistry and astronomy and other sort of sciences. So it's only been several decades where even the most common things that we understand about health and wellness have been out in our society. So it's still just in the infant stages. Jordan, good. In all honesty, GSC kind of hurts my ego. I sometimes feel I'm better about myself more like a beast if I go back to weighted calisthenics and focusing on improving weight. Thoughts? Yeah, I mean, it's all in the programming on how you're doing it. Like if you do the first 2 phases when you're just giving everything you've got to the tension phase and everything you got to the stability phase, you're not gonna have a lot of energy for the grind or that strength phase, which is where your weighted calisthenics would go. And don't forget, weighted calisthenics is part of GSC. That is for the strength phase for sure. The other thing too is in the book, I mention like going up to 15 repetitions with backfilling strategy and stuff, and that's fine. But don't feel like you've got to hold yourself to that. Get out of that little box, right? If you want to do like a 5x5, go for it. With a weighted pull-up and stuff. I did that last week. I did weighted pull-ups 5x5 as my grind phase. It doesn't have to be 3 sets. It doesn't have to be, this is the exercise. Do not do anything else until you get 3 sets of 15. Those are general recommendations. But if you want to bust out weighted dips and back squats or whatever, go for it. The only requirement of that grind phase is that it's hard and challenges your strength. That's it. You do whatever you want with it. Michael dropped weight daddy into house. What is your favorite jump rope, weighted or speed? Well, when you say weighted, like, do you mean the really heavy ones? Like at the gym where I work at, we've got these jump ropes that are like 10 pounds. They're like battle ropes and that sort of thing. I'm assuming you're not quite mentioning that. I'm not a big fan of the speed ropes either, because to me, that just makes it easier. It's kind of like the wire you see people often doing. It's got bearings and stuff. I like the ones that are more like just a coated wire, or that you can get for like $10 at spree.com, or is it Spry? S-P-R-I. I never understood that. But I guess you would call that a speed rope, although now I think what we often call speed ropes are the ones that are literally like a steel cable. I prefer the ones that are coated with everything, the plastic. I've been walking. Hey Matt, I've been walking up and down the wall into a bridge. Yes, convict conditioning step 8, doing bridge holds for months. Still not improving back flexibility. Any tips for getting to a stand-to-stand bridge? May not be back flexibility. Of course, oftentimes it's also things like the flexibility of the anterior chain. So you've also got your quads, your hips, your abs to consider. It may also be shoulder mobility. So maybe you're not quite opening your shoulders quite enough, although it's usually not quite the case. What I would do is I would look at where is your weight between your hands and your feet. So for the stand-to-stand bridge, what you need to be able to do is be able to shift your weight primarily onto your feet for most of the repetition. So when you're doing the wall bridges, one of the things that's easy to happen is we push so much into the wall with all of our weight that we don't have enough weight on our feet. And that's kind of what the wall bridges are supposed to be teaching us, because when you put one hand on the wall, you're supposed to kind of feel like you're getting more weight onto your feet. So instead, I would do the wall walking bridges with as much weight on your feet as possible and do them on your fingertips. So that way you're not putting into a flat palm. That way you're putting more weight onto your feet, getting down into it. And as you get more comfortable with weighting your feet, that will transition more into the stand-to-stand bridges. Congratulations on getting that far, though. That's fantastic. Much respect for you. I'm still working in bridges. That's always been my bugaboo. Is bridges are so hard for me to do. Oops, sorry, I clicked on that again. Let's see. Lent. Hey, Matt, just wanted to say you're awesome. Never fail to impress. Thank you so much, Lent. I always appreciate these compliments and comments and everything you folks put on. The fact that I'm here and, talking, and you're willing to spend any amount of time listening to me, I mean, that just humbles me beyond words. It really does. Because when I started RDP, you put out a video and you get like 5 watt views on it, and 3 of them are thumbs down kind of things, So it's one of those things that I just always appreciate, and I just want you guys to know. That's one of the reasons why I do this, because I just want to bring as much value as possible to you through these things, and I feel like I can do that more than with the traditional podcast format that was coming out before. Wolfy, where are you? Sometimes the feed skips around me. Here we go, Wolfy. When will your new books be available? Oh, so here's the other point that I was trying to make when it came to criticism and everything, was I hit a massive stumbling block in my micro workouts book. I mean, it was like bang your head on the desk kind of stumbling block. Like I just can't seem to get past this one section. And in hindsight, what I came to understand was that I didn't understand what I was truly trying to say in that section. Like I just had 20 different things I was trying to convey in 5 sentences, right? So I couldn't understand what I was trying to do because I was not understanding. I was very self-critical. I was very self-critical of myself, very self-critical of my writing. You can't write, you can't write for crap. You're such a bad writer, just negative, 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 because of a lack of understanding. It wasn't true by any means, but I didn't understand what I was trying to do. So finally, I kind of sat back and I just ruminated on a couple of days saying, what am I trying to say here? And that took a couple of days to figure out. And it's not perfect, but I at least got something of an understanding what I was trying to say. I was like, okay, so how are you going to say that? And I knocked it out a couple drafts, and it's not great, but it's at least good enough that I can move past it. So long-winded answer. Sorry, Wolfy Dragon, but right now I don't know. But the water is flowing again. And I'm also involved in several other projects. So it's kind of, I'm breaking the cardinal sin of productivity, right? Focus on one thing at a time. Every day I've got like 5 projects that I'm working on right now. So it's kind of like I did a little of this and a little of that and a little of that. So it's slow going, but it's going a lot faster than it was. And I hope to have it for sure. I don't know, maybe end of September would be a good timeline to shoot for. Sadge, how much should you rest between different exercises that work the SA? What do you mean, Sadge? What's SA? But I'll answer in the blanket statement here. This is also a good example of people, Michael, when you were saying, why do people ask the same questions? Like this question I get a lot. And I answered this in a YouTube video one time, and someone even commented like, here's another video on how much should you rest between sets, which has been answered a million times on YouTube. It's like, yeah, because people still have this question. People still want to know about it. And anybody who has an honest question and an earnest question deserves an honest answer. So rest periods, you can time it, but keep in mind that the rest you have depends on how much fatigue you're getting from the exercise and what your objective is. So generally, If you are trying to focus on endurance and keeping like how well you can perform in a fatigue state, less rest. But if your objective is muscular output, so either I want to do this as well as possible or work my muscle as hard as possible or to get in as many reps as possible, anything that's an increase in muscular output, more rest. And it's going to depend on the exercise. So things like leg training, that's going to create a lot more fatigue, a lot more muscle involved, needs more rest. Things that are much smaller muscle groups like abs probably recover a lot faster. So you don't need nearly as much rest. So the good rule of thumb is if you're looking for muscular output, rest until you feel you can give it a good shot in the next round. And if you're going for endurance, go as quickly as you can and shorter rest periods as possible. Let's see. Adrian says, I can relate to so many projects. I'm sure she is an absolute powerhouse. Girya Girl Fitness is always working on like 20 projects at once. She's the ultimate at every time I talk to her, she's like, I've got this and this and this and this and this and this. Like, how do you do this all? Like, I can barely keep, straight that, successful day. I left the house while getting and being able to get dressed first, keep things straight in my mind. Three-eyed fish. What if people look at me during my workout? Hey, awesome. Great. You know how many guys in the gym are like, someone please pay attention to me. Please. Like you watch them. They're like looking around. It's like, is anybody paying attention to me? Oh, I think someone's going to glance my way. Better get that next set in kind of thing. The ironic thing is like everybody in a gym is looking at everyone else, asking if everyone else is paying attention to them. It's like, why are you looking at me? Because you're looking at me. Why are you looking at me? Because you're looking at me. And it's that sort of thing. Versus a lot of times the most successful people you see, like in the gym, they're getting the best workouts. They're like, their focus is on what they're doing. They're not looking around. They're kind of just looking at the weight. They're very much in their own mind. They're in their own head kind of thing. They got the Beats headphones on, right? They're very, very focused. If they're looking at you, okay, but you don't know what they're thinking. It could be good or it could be bad. So choose good. Everybody's admiring you. But for the most part, no one's really paying attention to anyone unless they're paying attention, asking if anyone's paying attention to them kind of idea. But I know that's a self-conscious thing. I know a lot of people don't like to work out in a gym for that reason. They feel very self-conscious. And to that, I always say, so don't work out in a gym. Like get some equipment or just find a playground or a park, get a kettlebell, get some bands, get whatever you can. Of course, now things are really short supply, although I heard Dragon Door's restocking their kettlebells pretty quick. But, you don't need a gym. There's so many people now with COVID, they're like, I don't need a gym. Why am I going back to a gym? It's certainly not necessary. Second question, the same, what if I am doing pull-ups? Someone is pointing at me. I hope they're not pointing at my butt cheeks. Dude, do you know how much I want someone to notice my butt cheeks? I'm kidding, of course. We don't know what they're doing. They could be pointing at something behind you. Like, what time is it? 3:00. And you're just in the line of sight between their finger and the clock kind of thing. It's hard to know, though. It really is hard to know. So I would say if you really are self-conscious about it, just get out of the gym. Find a good playground. That might be very good. John, do you think with everyone working at home, when gyms open, memberships will drop due to the success people are experiencing with calisthenics? I think it's a real possibility. Or just success in just home workouts in general. Success with kettlebells, success with dumbbells, success with yoga, success with programs on YouTube. I know in the gym I used to work at, I know that's been the case for a lot of trainers too, where a lot of my fellow trainers at this big, huge, massive gym, I used to work at this gym that had like 30 trainers on staff. And I talked to them and I'm like, you guys going back to them? You're like, no way, man. I'm making way more money training on my own. I don't need the gym. So I think there's a real distinct possibility things are going to get hit. I think it's going to change once the weather changes, though. Here in Colorado, winters, they're fairly mild, but it gets nasty once in a while. Vermont's absolutely brutal. The Northeast is nuts. So I think that'll change a lot when the weather changes. But yeah, I think people are developing the tools and the skills and getting the gear and stuff to work out on their own. And if they find that's more beneficial with less cost, goodbye gym membership, which is, Adrian, thank you very much. Pre-orders on kettlebells are on round 3 at Dragon Door. Thank you very much, Adrian. Go over to Dragon Door, check that out if you want to stock up on some kettlebells. Corvin, hey Matt, ever use a 10 loop strap for isometrics? If yes, what do you think of it? I'm assuming you're meaning like a daisy chain kind of strap, because the iso loops that I use in my books and stuff, those are 10 feet long. I haven't used it too much. Things like the forearm forklift, I know Steve Maxwell uses those a lot. You can find those on Amazon. You can find them in climbing stores and stuff. They make sense. They seem to make sense. One of my small little hang-ups on it, and it's not really a big deal, is those loops add bulk to it. And I keep my iso loop like rolled up in my carry-on bag. I have it with me all the time kind of stuff. It's ultra portable. And that stuff can be more bulky. Not that it really is that bulky. I mean, of course, it's still easy to pull it around. It's not that hard, and depending on the construction, it's no big deal. My thing, though, with things like a dedicated loop, and sometimes you'll find like gymnastics ring straps and suspension straps with dedicated loops, is I don't like things saying, this is the level you have to be at. Like your hand has to be this position, or it has to be at this height specifically. I like having that infinite adjustability, even though I probably never really need it or use it. Like, you know, whether it's here or here, it probably doesn't matter very much. Either is perfectly fine. But my mind is always just in how small an adjustment can I make to get things dialed in as perfect as possible. And that's just my preference. But otherwise, there's always the convenience thing. Like you don't have to adjust anything. You just grab a different loop. There's also that. Very, very beneficial. All right. Should I do isometric pistol squat holds? I can do it at a 90-degree angle. Would this lead to further progression? I highly recommend that. Absolutely. Especially with leg training. There's a lot of value in the isometric. That's why in a lot of martial arts, they have these deep stances and stuff to develop the leg strength. People used to be very critical of deep stances in the martial arts, saying you can't do that in a fight. You know, you can't, your opponent's just going to kick your knees out. It's not about fighting. It was about leg development, conditioning, mobility. So holding that sucker, fantastic. Highly recommend it. Hold on to something with your hands. So that way you can at least kind of get a feeling for where you are, and you can get even deeper. And that way you can rely a little bit on your hands to hold the position and just drive that leg to a whole new level of strength. I think it's going to be really good for you. Go in 8 to 10 second sets, I would start off with. If you can't do that, 3 to 6 seconds or so. But it's very, very good, because a lot of times, especially with pistol squats, you'll find that's where people lose it. They're squatting, they're good, they lose it, you know, kind of thing. If you build strength in that position, it will only help you. Awesome question. Matt, I'm bored with the basics. What to do? Learn how to do the basics better. Go deep, my friend. There's always more to learn. And basically what you want to do is learn how to use your muscles better in the basics. Like we get bored because we're not learning. That's why we get bored. Boredom has nothing to do with variety. It has nothing to do with doing something different. It has very little to do with mixing things up. And again, in the martial arts, my instructor was always say, you should be able to do 100 kicks every day and never get bored of it whatsoever. And we're like, dude, I'm bored of 100 kicks just right now. It's like, no, you have to learn more about the basics. You have to learn more, go deep, understand the push-up at a level that most people never achieve. I mean, hell, I'm still learning how to do push-ups better right now. And I've been doing this for like 12 years or so. So the more you learn about the actual exercise, the more fun and it will become for you. So focus on how are you using your muscles in the basics, and that will open more doors of learning, progression, and it will make them more interesting. How long after I start calisthenics I need to add weight? 1 year? Yeah, add weight whenever you want. Absolutely, just whenever you like. Depends on the exercise, depends on your proficiency. Always remember the weight that you add is there to test your technique. So go light, go gentle, but yeah, if you're feeling like, I kind of want to hold these dumbbells while I'm doing these lunges, or maybe I'll add this dip belt while I'm doing these pull-ups or something, knock it out, man. Go light and just see what happens. You'll learn more from your experience than you ever will going, I don't know, because we need understanding. Can't have understanding without experience. The redfish, the same conversation. I don't like people calling me sexy in the gym. Oh man, I wish I had that problem. I haven't gotten anything like that since I was in college. Even then, I'm pretty sure they were joking. Yeah, but again, I think if the gym culture, the other thing too is, are you working out alone? That might be something to consider too, because I know the gym experience and the energy changes a lot when you're working with someone. how people interact with you, how people look at and treat you and stuff. When you're with people, it's a very different scenario when you are working with a partner. So maybe try checking out with a workout partner or a friend and see if that changes things for you. Let's see, more questions. Michael, awesome with the questions. What's one habit that you recently adopted that's made a big difference in your fitness progress? Big change. Holy smokes, you people are going to love this. I've been giving this to everybody. Stand on one leg and lift the other leg in front of you. I know it sounds real simple, but here's the thing. Hips are the gateway for a lot of progress. Adrian, am I right? Like, this is one of the reasons why kettlebells are so freaking awesome, is because there's so much on the hip work, hip strength, stability, and mobility. You improve those things, you will change your life. And what I do now on a daily basis is I stand on one leg, I lock it out, get the glutes, quads, and hamstrings really tight, and I lift the other leg straight up in front of me as high as I can while keeping that leg straight. And it has been transformative for everything with my lower body. It's been a week and it's like, oh my God, why didn't I do this sooner? This is just so important. And it's an isometric, it's a yielding isometric, and it's been doing wonders for my hips. And my hips have always been horribly weak, horribly tight, and horribly unstable. And now all of that is getting reversed with that one movement. I'll try and make a demonstration video, put it on the RDP Instagram tomorrow for you. But seriously, give that a try. Every day, it will make a big difference. Jake, what should I do if only one side of my abs activates when I flex? Good question. Now, some people may say, is that even possible? And this is possible. If you read Maxick's book, Muscle Control, there's actually demonstrations and examples in the book of people flexing one side than the other. So what I would do is I would practice tensing the other side. And I would do it in this way. I would stand in front of a countertop or a table or something sturdy, right? And put your arm out of that same side of the abs that are having trouble activating, a straight arm, and push the arm down into the countertop using those abs and a little bit in your back. And you're not going to feel much of anything at first, totally normal. Just keep doing it. Practice it on a regular basis. Just so you know, you got a countertop or anything in front of you, right? Just push down, try and engage that side, and it'll go slow, and then bang, it'll hit, and it will balance itself out, and it'll transform your ab training. That's what I would do. Blake, awesome question. Do you start with overcoming isometrics and end with dynamic movement, or is it better the other way around? You can do it either way. Here's the way I always program isometrics with dynamics. Isometrics first for a warm-up, then dynamics. So isometrics are warming up for the dynamic. You can do dynamics and then the isometrics as a finisher, very powerful, potent finisher. Or you can even superset the two, especially if you're having an off day. I like to use that strategy if it's like, oh, my legs are just not turning on, I'm just not getting this workout for whatever reason. Supersetting them back and forth makes it a lot easier to work your muscles at a higher level, even if your amount of effort that you can put in as subdued for whatever reason. So either before for a warm-up, after as a finisher, or intermixed as a superset, especially to bring things up to a higher level. All right. Another one, would you recommend active stretching more than passive stretching? Does it increase flexibility? I am a huge fan of active stretching. Ever since reading Convict Conditioning 2 by Paul Wade, because I've always had horrible flexibility. I mean, horrifically bad flexibility. And as a martial artist, stretching like it was my job. And I honestly don't really think it was doing me any good whatsoever. But the active flexibility where I'm working one side while stretching the other, case in point, that leg raise exercise I just shared with you, miracle. Awesome, fantastic. So that's one of the reasons why I've come to the belief of like passive activity without tension doesn't have nearly as much value. No tension, no benefit. So stretching with muscles active, working the muscles, far more beneficial in my opinion. I wouldn't say the passive is bad. I just don't think it has as much value. And if it's going to take roughly the same amount of time and energy and effort, do the one that's probably going to get you the most benefit. You're either going to get stronger or you're going to build mobility, and eventually you're going to get both. So that's what I would do. Hey Matt, are 10 to 20 one-arm push-ups, are you 10 to 20 one-arm push-ups? I changed my technique on doing push-ups. My training is a lot more effective. Never bored with bodyweight training. Absolutely. It really can be crazy with technique. So going back to that question about boredom, Try shift work with the basics. Find points where you have a little bit of weakness. So like when you're push-ups, for example, if you're kind of bored with doing push-ups, do push-ups where you get down low and you shift your weight from one arm to the next and then come back up. Shifting work can really help you identify areas where you're tight, stiff, and immobile and unstable. And that can help you understand deeper level of the technique as well. Awesome advice there, BKtrainer. Very, very good. HK, how do you answer all these questions so fast? You don't even have to think about the answers. It's impressive. I've got no answer for that. Hey man, this is what experience does for you. When you've been in this industry, I mean, I haven't been in it that long. It's only been like 18, 19 years or so, which for many people, I mean, you look at Dan John, he had this much experience before I was even born. When you understand the basics and the principles and stuff, the answers are most often easy. And if they're not easy, then the other answer is, I don't know. Jake asking, sorry to bombard you with questions. No, please, that's what I do this for. I want all the questions you guys have. That's why I do this. These live sessions at the end of the first initial part of the RDP podcast is what this is all about. Questions. All the ones that you can hit me with is very much appreciated. All right, one more question again from BKtrainer. Fantastic. Hey Matt, are you doing unilateral training, such as one-arm push-ups? If so, what does that look like? I'm doing a lot of unilateral training, absolutely. Archer push-ups, still working on the shoulder stability of my right shoulder. My right shoulder is just all kinds of effed up, but it's now getting better thanks to learning and understanding how to use my muscles better, thanks to overcoming isometrics. But archer push-ups, I've got commando pull-ups where I'm grabbing the bar like this and most of my weight is on this hand and I'm using just like 3 fingers or 4 fingers on the bar. So that's unilateral. And I wouldn't classify unilateral as strictly one limb. I would say unilateral in my book would be any sort of exercise where there's a dominant limb sort of thing. That's the way I'm looking at it. Shrimp squats, bread and butter, love shrimp squats, love lunges, shifting squats, sort of thing I practice all the time. Another one from Wolfy Dragon. Excellent advice as always. Take care, buddy. Yeah, need my beauty sleep. A lot of 2:15 there. Holy smokes, man, get to sleep. I can't believe you're watching me at 2 a.m. This is crazy, but I do sincerely appreciate it as much. All right, one more question. I've been doing jackknife pull-ups forever. Okay, 3 months or so. And I still can't do real pull-ups. I've been backfilling and progress seems unattainable. Suggestions? Yes, progress your jackknife pull-ups. Progression is always the answer. Progression with whatever you've got. So there's several ways you can do this. One is elevate your feet in the jackknife pull-up. So I'm assuming that your legs are straight. That's typically how jackknives are done. So if your legs are straight, elevate your feet. That's going to make it harder. Add more resistance to your hands. That'll make it harder. You can also cross your ankles. If you cross your ankles, that means that less weight is on your feet just because you have less surface area, a little bit more on your hands. You can also move your hands closer together. That can work very well. You can put rotation into your hands as you're doing it. That's almost more of a flavor thing. It may not make it too much harder, but you may discover some interesting things from that. It may make it a little bit more interesting. Also, range of motion. Make sure you're coming all the way down. Make sure you're going all the way up. Try to bring your hands to your chest. Those are the areas I would go in to progress your jackknife pull-ups to keep getting stronger with that technique and help you unlock the standard pull-up. All right. Yeah. Sadge, clarifying. Sorry, I meant how much rest needed between different exercises. I like do 3 sets of pull-ups, then I need to do chin-up. Should I go right to the chin-up, not super? No, I would definitely rest because they're basically the same exercise. Definitely give yourself plenty of rest, especially if you've got some. You can superset, like when you're supersetting things, like I do push-ups, then I do squats. Okay, that you can kind of go one right to the other because it's not agonist muscle groups. They're not the same thing. So yeah, I would definitely rest for sure, unless you're trying to be endurance, but they're basically the same exercise. So that's something I would definitely rest for. All right, folks, thank you again so much for all of your attention and your questions. I sincerely do appreciate it. As always, check out the books, down at in the description, reddeltaproject.com for free ebooks for you. Stay tuned to the RDP YouTube channel for more news about the ISO chain and for new videos coming out. Got a video coming out tomorrow on the difference between yielding and overcoming isometrics, and why I'm starting to kind of change my tune a little bit on why yielding may be one of the better options out there for you. I'll talk to you next week. Till then, be fit, live free.